Hiya, my name's Darren Evans, I'm the Technical Director at AEC.
Hi, my name's David Russon and I'm the Senior Occupational Hygienist here at AEC.
We want to talk, Dave, about the consultation that the HSE has just finished on the EU's Carcingens and Mutigens Directive, which is updating indicative occupational exposure limit values for certain substances. Now, the first thing I thought about for this, because it's an EU directive and it's been out and it should be enacted by 2020, is that we may not actually be in the European Union early next year. But nonetheless, what are your thoughts on the HSE adopting these limits anyway?
I think they will adopt them, and I think they should. I think any exposure limit, if we don't have an exposure limit in the UK, then we often use European or American limits anyway. So the fact that the HSE are looking at the European directive and bringing in these exposure limits can only be good.
Yeah.
Any substance that has an exposure limit is obviously worth investigating and making sure that it's as low as you possibly can go. And rewording or tweaking these limits is only a good thing, I think.
Well, it is by definition. It's the carcinogens and mutagens, so therefore these are the most toxic substances to health anyway, causing cancer. So my assumption is like yours, if this is new science and other countries are adopting these levels, then there is no earthly reason why we shouldn't adopt these in the UK.
Yeah.
So an indicative occupational exposure limit value is what the EU calls, and we call them workplace exposure limits, WELS. There are 11, is that right?
12 or 13 that they've brought in or that they're looking at. However, I think there's only the 4 main ones that will have the main impact, I think, in the UK, and certainly in our line of work that we deal with. Yeah. Will be the respirable crystalline silica, hardwood dust, hexavalent chrome, or chrome 6.
Which is in stainless steel.
Which is a stainless steel, and refractory ceramic fibres, or RCF.
Right. Okay, well, let's talk about those. I mean, respirable crystalline silica you mentioned. I know that IOSH had that as one of their campaigns, their No Time to Lose campaigns for carcinogens, going back a couple of years. So respirable crystalline silica is a carcinogen, causes lung cancer, also causes pulmonary fibrosis called silicosis. Yeah. So what are they changing? Are they changing the WEL on
No,
that?
they're leaving the workplace exposure limit at 0.1 milligrams per cubic metre as an 8-hour average. However, what they are doing is they're bringing in what's known as a CARC notation, CARC, into the guidance, into EH40, which just highlights the fact that it's a carcinogen. Now, what this will probably do is this will, I think, prick a lot of people's ears up and raise a lot of awareness in the fact that it's gone from something that lots of people nowadays know that crystalline silica is a risk and is very bad for you. However, it's never been shown that it's a carcinogen before now. People looking through EH40 now will look at this and see that it's a carcinogen, and therefore will have to, I think will want to protect their guys even more now.
Yeah, and this is for actually task generated as well, isn't it? So what they're saying is that if you're cutting block, for example, on a construction site, you're generating the dust, that is carcinogenic. And I think that people have, again, it's this assumption that, because it's outside and it's just outside, it's on a construction site, we're not really breathing it in. But obviously studies are now showing that the lads who are cutting block on site with saws, simply they could have on-tool extraction, they could have on-tool wetting, but they tend not to. I've seen guys doing this on our road only a couple of weeks ago, doing a cloud of dust. Well, if they're doing that regularly, then of course that's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's not just construction workers as well, although they seem to have been sort of highlighted in recent studies through IOSH and the BOHS's Breathe Freely campaigns that have been launched. But it's also people like stonemasons and quarrymen and people that work inside dressing stone, and things like that could do it typically without extraction in sort of smaller workshops. They're also at big risk to breathing in this sort of stuff. Now, control again is the key. Control is the key. Simple controls can be put in place. but that's for another time. I think what we're talking about today is just the new directive.
So the new directive, again, the WEL is not being changed.
No.
But the assumption is that somebody has already got a cost assessment in place for respirable crystalline silica. Yeah. And what this is saying is, actually, this is a carcinogen, and really, that affects the information that you give to the lads on site. And also, is another one, review your cost assessment.
Yeah.
Is it still valid? It's part of reviewing your cost assessment anyway. Is it still valid? Do your controls, are they adequate, considering it's a carcinogen? Do you need exposure monitoring to prove that your controls are? So, that's one thing. Next one, hardwood dust. Now, I know hardwood and softwood dust, they're both respiratory sensitizers, so they cause occupational asthma, and hardwood dust, or deciduous really, isn't it? That's what you mean from a deciduous tree, is a nasal carcinogen. And currently, they've both got the same WEL of 5 milligrams per cubic metre, but hardwood is going to be reduced, isn't it?
Hardwood's going to be reduced to 3 milligrams per cubic metre,
and
with the aim to reduce it further by 2024 to 2 milligrams per cubic metre, so a further reduction of the
So they're
going
to reduce it. So they're planning to reduce the WEL by more than half of its existing one over the next kind of 5 years or so. So again, is this because new studies, or is it because as a nasal carcinogen people have not really considered it to be as toxic as it is?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it's obviously new studies that have come to light. More cases of nasal cancer have probably come to light and have been reported and linked back to woodworking and working with hardwood dust. Also as well, the controls are better now, so therefore it is possible to reduce the levels.
Oh, you mean better extraction on soils and the like?
Yeah. So it's now easier to reduce the level down to a lower level. Whereas in the past, the technology may not have been there to be able to reduce your wood dust levels down to below 5 milligrams per cubic metre.
It's interesting, really, isn't it? If you've got a joinery workshop, or you are furniture manufacturer, or shop fitting, or whatever it is you're using with wood, you can't, now you've got two separate WELs. I'm assuming that what you do is you would aim for all your dust to go to the lower WEL rather than try and separate your wood and your controls.
If you've got a mixture, if you work with hard and soft, then you obviously go for the worst case, and you will try and get your limits down to 3, rather than think, well, it's okay, I'm at 5 with that one, and trying to get this one to 3. It's always good practice anyway to get it down as low as you possibly can. You shouldn't just be aiming to get it just below the well anyway.
Of course. As far as reasonably practicable, isn't it? I mean, it is interesting that if you didn't just use softwood dust, then really your controls, it is a significant review of your controls as well, because you're going down from 5 milligrams to 3 and then to 2. So you're actually halving it in effect below that. So again, more monitoring, I suppose, greater reviews of your existing controls. Chromium 6. This is a particularly nasty stuff, and I suppose the most common use we've done is stainless steel, isn't it?
It's in metals, alloys in metals. It's also used in pigments, in paints.
Yes.
As a corrosion resistant in pigments in paints. You can also find it in cement, Chrome 6.
Right, okay.
Which is more of a dermatitis issue, wet cement and handling, than an inhalation risk. But your main problem is you find it in alloys of steel, and it's mainly stainless steel, and whenever you do any hot works associated with that steel, so if you're welding, plasma cutting, and that sort of thing, that will generate a fume, and that fume can contain hexavalent chrome.
Now that's got quite a stringent WL already, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's currently at 0.05 milligrams per cubic metre, which is really low.
Yeah, very low. And what they're going to do, because my understanding is there were two. There's a kind of a manufacturing limit and a process limit. So if you generate it like welding, we've talked before about the welding carcinogen alert earlier this year. I suppose this kind of ties in with it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it will do. Yeah, because what they're wanting to do is to reduce the level by 50% to 0.025 milligrams per cubic metre for process-generated chrome 6, so from things like welding, hot works, electroplating, that sort of environment, and then reduce the well to 0.01 milligrams per cubic metre for non-process generated chrome 6 exposure. So things like if you're handling chrome 6 powders or that sort of thing, pigments, that sort of thing. And then they're looking by 2025 to reduce this level even further down to 0.005 milligrams per cubic metre. So they're really pushing to get it down to almost no safe limit, similar to what they mentioned in the welding.
Right, okay. So what's the real influence of that? Are we trying now to push people down the route of stopping using chrome 6 and use something alternative, which is really what the hierarchy of control expects, isn't it?
I think they're trying now. However, whether that's possible with you look at stainless steel products and corrosion resistant paints and things, I think there'll always be a need for chrome 6 in them sort of environments and them sort of applications. So again, I think they're obviously looking at being able to control it properly at source, so you're not being exposed to that sort of limit anyway. And I think if you get your controls right, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to meet them limits.
Okay. The other one, or another one that's relatively common, I suppose, is refractory ceramic fibres, which are, I suppose, an asbestos replacement in many many instances. It's used for very high temperatures, so things like furnaces and kilns, insulation, that kind of stuff, isn't it? Now, I do know that obviously from asbestos and other fibres that again, it's not. It's due to the fibre size, not what it contains. So it's a silicate fibre, but it's the actual size. So they're similar in size to asbestos fibres, aren't they? So they can penetrate the base of the lung. Now, the WEL, I understand, is being reduced on it. It's already a carcinogen.
It's already a carcinogen in EH40. It's already got a CARC notation. But the exposure limit now is going to go down from 1 down to 0.3 fibres per mil, so it's going to be a third of what it currently is, which will bring it into line with the asbestos limits. Almost down to an asbestos control limit. But what they seem to be saying is that, because it used to be 2 and now it's 1 and now it's going down to 0.3. So this is, again, I'm assuming this is due to research. RCF has been used as an asbestos replacement over the last, say, 20 years or so, 25 years, and now we're getting more instances. I think they're finding now that it's got similar properties to. It also has an issue that if it gets superheated, it can turn into crystalline silica as well.
So you've got the separate hazard when you're removing it
of potentially respirable silica as well.
So from this, there is a MDHS, isn't there, for RCF? So it's a similar fibre counting methodology to asbestos, but it's more like personal monitoring. So 100 fields you count, and it's and again we're looking at an 8-hour time weighted average here. So it's not like a 4-hour or a 480 litres like you have asbestos, because again there is that kind of confusion. Oh, we just do it the same as asbestos. We don't. It's slightly different, isn't it? There's a gravimetric analysis if you think that all you're being exposed to is RCF, which currently is at 5 milligrams per cubic metre, I believe. But they're keeping that the same, aren't
but they've not mentioned anything about reducing that. So I would presume that people would need to go and look at doing fibre counting.
Yes.
Doing personal monitoring and fibre counting and going off the lower 0.3 fibres per mil limit.
Obviously, all these substances are cost regulated, so the requirement is always, it's in the name, control. And the idea is that any time that this consultation brings in a reduced WEL, the first thing we'd have to do is review our cost assessments and our control measures. And I suppose the ways of doing that is to summarise really is that you look at your cost assessments. If the workplace exposure limit is being reduced so significantly, which if you think hardwood dust and certainly RCF is and chrome 6, then your existing exposure monitoring will need to be looked at again, I guess. Again,
it's review of your assessment. Are your controls adequate? How do you prove your controls are adequate? Carry out some exposure monitoring, and then you can make sure that your controls are enough to bring your exposure down to below the current limit and the new limit that's coming in.
Well, and the other thing as well, of course, that's in COSH is information, instruction and
Yes.
training. So really, we should be telling the guys who are doing this kind of work that actually, you know, it is a carcinogen and you can't be as exposed to as high amounts as you were previously, and controls need to be better, and you need to kind of engage with these guys in that, don't you? I mean, that's part of the deal, particularly, you know, what you see with respirable crystalline silica out on construction sites. That I think is the thing that you see more than anything with a lack of control is clouds of dust on construction sites.
Yeah, and with RCS, you know, water suppression has been shown, simple method, and it's been shown to reduce RCS exposure by up to 99%.
Yeah.
You know, just from a simple water spray onto the blade. So, you know, it's the methods are out there.
But experience tells you though, it's you know, use of those control measures as well. So when we talk about information, instruction and training, it's like telling the guys why they need to do it, and then kind of getting them engaged in actually using them and understanding why those controls are so important for their exposure. And that comes from the workers as well as from the managers, and making sure that they use it. Because you do see, well, it has got water on the saw, but the reservoir's empty because nobody's filled it up.
Yeah, definitely.
So you do see that kind of thing as well. So again, much more worker engagement, I think. So I'd say in summary from the consultation, consultation is closed. It closed in June. My expectation would be, knowing what the HSE have done in the past, we will implement these workplace exposure limits. They will be reduced, and therefore, you know, any employer should be looking now at their risk assessments. It's been out there, and this is what the HSE will expect. And I know the HSE is certainly working July and August. They're focusing on dust in woodworking, in construction, and in food production.
Yeah.
So again, this will be something that's on the table. Certainly RCS and wood dust on construction sites. So I think it's a time where you review your risk assessment. If you need some more exposure monitoring, then that's what we can help with.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.